The rain tapped my umbrella like a cruel metronome as I stood beside my son Michael's coffin. His death at 42 from a sudden heart attack had gutted me, but what happened next was worse. My daughter-in-law, Sarah, barely waited for the priest to finish before she leaned in, her perfume sharp as her words. "Evelyn, we need you out of the house by next week. It's time for us to move on." Move on? My son wasn't even in the ground, and she was evicting me from the home I'd shared with him and my late husband for decades. I gripped the umbrella tighter, my knuckles white, and managed a nod. "You might want to chuck your phone across the room when you hear this story, but stick with me. Please comment below where you're watching from and share the family drama that's made you furious. Now, turn off the lights, settle in, and let's dive into this tale." I trudged home, the weight of Sarah's words heavier than the mud on my shoes. The house smelled of Michael's cologne, a ghost I couldn't escape. Sarah and her son, David, my stepson from Michael's first marriage, were already there, laughing over takeout in the kitchen. I paused in the doorway, unnoticed, watching them clink wine glasses. To new beginnings, Sarah toasted, her smile sharp as a blade. David, always eager to please her, nodded like a puppy. I slipped past it in my room, my chest tight. Alone, I sat at my vanity, brushing my gray hair, each stroke a reminder of the years I'd poured into this family. The mirror reflected a woman who looked defeated, but I wasn't ready to break. The next morning, I found a bank statement on the kitchen counter, half hidden under a cereal box. It showed a transfer of $10,000 from our joint account to an unfamiliar name. Michael's name was still on the account, but he'd been gone a month. My heart raced. Sarah had access, but why this secret withdrawal? I tucked the statement into my purse, my hands trembling. She thought I was just a grieving mother, too weak to notice. "Oh, Sarah, you underestimated me." I spent the day sorting Michael's things, each shirt and book a stab of memory. Sarah breezed in, her heels clicking. "Evelyn, don't drag this out. We need space for my new office." Her new office. This was my home, where I'd raised Michael, where my husband Tom wrote me love notes. I forced a smile, biting back the urge to snap. "Of course. Sarah, I'll pack faster." She smirked, probably thinking I was her personal maid. If only she knew I was already planning my next move. That evening, I ate alone in the dining room, the silence louder than any argument. A single plate, a single fork, the clink of metal against porcelain. My eyes drifted to a photo on the wall. Michael, Tom, and me at a beach, laughing under a sunset. I traced Tom's face with my finger, the glass cool under my touch. He'd always said, "Evelyn, you're tougher than you look." I needed that strength now. Sarah's laughter echoed from the kitchen, a reminder of her takeover. But that bank statement burned in my mind, a clue she didn't know I had. I wasn't leaving without a fight. I called my old friend Clara, a retired accountant with a nose for trouble. Over tea, I showed her the statement. Her eyes narrowed. "This smells like fraud. Evelyn, let me dig into it." Clara's confidence sparked something in me, a flicker of hope. Sarah thought she could push me out, but I was already gathering evidence. I went to bed that night with the statement hidden in my locked drawer, my resolve hardening. Sarah's cruelty had lit a fire, and I was ready to burn her plans to ash. The next day, Sarah left for a business meeting, her excuse as flimsy as her empathy. I searched the study, my hands shaking as I rifled through drawers. Nothing but bills and junk until I found a locked box under Michael's desk. My heart pounded. I didn't have the key, but I knew Sarah did. Whatever was inside, she didn't want me to see. I replaced the box, my mind racing. Sarah's eviction demand wasn't just greed, it was a cover for something bigger. I sat on the couch, staring at the locked box in my mind's eye, my dinner untouched on the coffee table. The house was quiet, but the storm was coming. The morning sun barely warmed the kitchen as I sipped my coffee, the bank statement still nagging at my mind. Sarah swept in, her phone glued to her ear, barking orders about some urgent deal. She didn't even glance at me, as if I were part of the furniture. Then she stopped, turned, and fixed me with a cold stare. "Evelyn, I posted about our new chapter on Instagram. You should check it. Her voice dripped with fake sweetness, but her eyes screamed control. I nodded, my stomach twisting. When she left, I opened her profile. There it was, a photo of her and David in my living room. Caption, reclaiming our space after loss. New beginnings. The comments gushed, but I saw it for what it was. A public jab, painting me as the obstacle. I gripped my phone, tempted to smash it, but instead, I saved a screenshot. Sarah thought she could shame me online, but she'd just handed me another weapon. I spent the afternoon in Michael's study, the locked box still out of reach. Desperate for answers, I turned to a bookshelf, hoping for a clue. My fingers brushed an old leather journal, Tom's handwriting on the cover. My heart skipped. Inside, tucked between pages of his poetry, was a letter addressed to me, dated a year before his death. Evelyn, if anything happens, check the safe deposit box at First National. Keys with Clara. Trust no one else. I pressed the letter to my chest, my breath shallow. Tom had known something. Even then, the safe deposit box could hold answers about Sarah's schemes. I hid the letter in my sweater, my hand steadier now. Tom's words were a lifeline, pulling me from despair. Clara called that evening, her voice low. That bank transfer, it went to a shell company tied to Sarah's business partner. I'm tracing it, but it's shady. I thanked her, my mind racing. Sarah wasn't just greedy, she was calculated, siphoning money while I grieved. I wanted to confront her, but I needed more. I sat at the dining table, a single candle flickering, my fork scraping an empty plate. The house felt like a battlefield, every creak a warning. I glanced at Tom's photo on the wall, his smile urging me on. I'm trying, love, I whispered, my voice cracking. The loneliness stung, but the letter in my sweater felt like armor. Sarah returned, tossing her purse on the counter. Evelyn, you're still moping. It's been a month. Her tone was sharp, like I was a child refusing to eat. I forced a smile, my fingers itching to slap that smirk off her face. Just remembering Michael, I said softly. She rolled her eyes. Well, don't take forever. We're redecorating soon. Redecorating my home. She might as well have spit on Michael's grave. I bit my tongue, thinking of the letter. Sure, Sarah, whatever you need. She probably thought I was her doormat. Let her. I'd play weak until the right moment. I met Clara the next day at a cafe, the letter folded in my purse. She handed me the safe deposit key, her eyes serious. Whatever's in there. Evelyn, be careful. Sarah's not playing small. I nodded, my throat tight. Back home, I found David in the living room, scrolling on his phone. Hey, Evelyn, he mumbled, barely looking up. I wanted to shake him, to ask why he let Sarah run this show, but his slumped shoulders told me he was her puppet. David, you okay? I asked gently. He shrugged. Yeah, just, Mom's got big plans. Mom, not Sarah. The word cut deep, a reminder of how far he'd drifted. I smiled, hiding my pain, and headed to my room. That night, I lay awake, Tom's letter under my pillow. Sarah's Instagram post replayed in my head, her smug caption a taunt. I opened my laptop and scrolled through her older posts, pausing at one from a month before Michael's death. Sarah and a man I didn't recognize, laughing at a gala. Caption, big things coming. The man's face was familiar, maybe from the bank statement shell company. I bookmarked it, my pulse quickening. Sarah was weaving a web, but I was starting to see the threads. I closed my eyes, picturing Tom's handwriting, his steady love guiding me. I wasn't just fighting for my home. I was fighting for Michael's memory. The next morning, I called the bank to schedule a visit to the safe deposit box. The clerk's voice was crisp. You'll need ID and the key. Mrs. Harper, I confirmed, my heart pounding. Sarah's cruelty was pushing me, but Tom's letter was pulling me forward. I sat on my bed, clutching a photo of Michael as a boy, his grin wide as the ocean. My tears fell silently, each one a promise to keep going. Sarah thought she'd won, but I was just getting started. The house was too quiet. The kind of silence that screams trouble. I was folding laundry in my room when Sarah stormed in, her face twisted with entitlement. Evelyn, we're turning your room into a nursery. You need to move to the guest house by Friday. A nursery. She wasn't pregnant. and David was 22. It was another ploy to push me out, to claim my home as hers. I smoothed a towel, my hand steady despite the rage bubbling inside. "And nursery sounds lovely," I said, my voice calm. She blinked, expecting a fight, then smirked. "Good. Glad you're on board." On board. She thought I was her personal pushover. I let her saunter out, but my mind was already racing to the safe deposit box I'd visit tomorrow. I spent the afternoon in Michael's study, searching for more clues. Under a stack of old tax forms, I found a copy of his will, but something was off. A clause I'd never seen claimed Sarah would inherit the house if Michael died before me. My heart sank. Michael and I had drafted that will together, and this wasn't in it. The signature looked like his, but the ink was too fresh, the paper too crisp. A forgery. I tucked it into my purse, my pulse hammering. Sarah wasn't just manipulative, she was rewriting our family's future. I needed to get to that safe deposit box before she caught on. That evening, I sat alone in the living room, a single lamp casting shadows. I held a chipped mug, the one Michael used for his morning coffee, and ran my thumb over its handle. The warmth of the tea couldn't touch the chill in my chest. I remembered Michael laughing in this room, his voice filling the space Sarah now claimed. My eyes stung, but I blinked back tears. Crying wouldn't help. The forged will and Tom's letter were my weapons, and I'd use them wisely. Sarah's nursery demand echoed in my head, her arrogance a spark to my resolve. David had shuffled in, avoiding my gaze. "Mom says you're okay with moving out," he mumbled. Mom again. I wanted to grab him, shake sense into him, but he was under Sarah's spell. "I'm just trying to keep the peace." "David," I said softly. He nodded, then left. I stared at the empty doorway, my heart aching for the boy who once called me Grandma Evie. Sarah had turned him into her echo, but I wouldn't give up on him yet. I sipped my tea, the bitterness matching in my mood. Sarah thought she'd won this round, but I was playing a longer game. The next morning, I drove to First National Bank, Tom's key heavy in my pocket. The clerk led me to the vault, and I opened the safe deposit box with shaking hands. Inside were bonds, a small deed, and a USB drive labeled for Evelyn. My breath caught. Tom had left me a lifeline, maybe evidence against Sarah. I slipped everything into my bag, my mind buzzing. Back home, I hid the items in my locked drawer, but Sarah was waiting in the kitchen. "Where were you?" she snapped, her eyes narrowing. "Just running errands," I said, forcing a smile. She didn't buy it, but she didn't push. Not yet. Clara called that afternoon, her voice urgent. "That shell company, it's linked to a lawyer who handles estate fraud. I'm sending you his email address." I checked my phone, and there it was, a name matching the man in Sarah's gala photo. My stomach twisted. Sarah's web was bigger than I thought, and that forged will was just the start. I spent the evening at my desk, staring at the USB drive. I didn't have a computer safe from Sarah's prying, but I'd find a way. I lit a candle, its flicker steadying me. The mug sat nearby. Michael's memory, a quiet strength. I wasn't just fighting for my home, I was fighting for truth. Sarah's Instagram was active again that night. A new post showing paint swatches for the nursery. The caption read, "Big changes for our family. Fresh start." Comments poured in, praising her strength. I saved another screenshot, my jaw tight. She was building a narrative, painting me as the old woman in the way. But the USB drive, the forged will, and Tom's letter were my countermove. I lay in bed, the mug on my nightstand, its weights grounding me. Sarah's cruelty was a storm, but I was learning to navigate it. Tomorrow, I'd crack open that USB and see what Tom had left me. The air in the house felt thick with Sarah's latest move. She cornered me in the hallway, her voice low and venomous. "Evelyn, stop dragging your feet. Sign over the house deed, or I'll make sure everyone knows you're losing it." Losing it. She was threatening to smear my sanity, a tactic as old as greed itself. I clutched the laundry basket, my nails digging into the plastic. "I'll think about it." "Sarah," I said, my tone even. She scoffed, probably thinking I was crumbling. "You got 2 days." She snapped, then strutted off, 2 days. She might as well have handed me a match to light her plans on fire. I wasn't signing anything. I retreated to my room, my mind on the USB drive from Tom's safe deposit box. I needed a secure computer, so I called Clara. She agreed to let me use her laptop at her place. Before leaving, I checked my email and found Clara's message with the lawyer's address. His name, Richard Vance, matched the man in Sarah's gala photo, and an attached email from him to Sarah mentioned finalizing the estate transfer. My blood ran cold. David was in the kitchen, staring at his phone, his face pale. "Everything okay, David?" I asked. He shrugged, muttering, "Mom's just intense. She was a puppeteer, and he was her marionette." I wanted to hug him, but Sarah's threat loomed. I grabbed my purse and left. At Clara's, I plugged in the USB. It held a single video file, Tom's face filling the screen. My heart clenched. "Evelyn," he said, his voice steady, "if you're watching this, I'm gone. And something's wrong. Sarah's been asking about our accounts, pushing Michael to change the will. I've documented everything, bank records, her meetings with Vance. It's all here." The video ended, and I sat frozen, tears streaming. Tom had seen Sarah's game years ago. I copied the files to Clara's laptop, my hands shaking. This was my ace. Proof of Sarah's manipulation. I wiped my eyes, Tom's courage fueling mine. Back home, I ate dinner alone in my room, a single slice of toast on a chipped plate. The silence was heavy, broken only by the clink of my fork. I opened a photo album, flip into a picture of Michael and David at a carnival, their faces sticky with cotton candy. My finger traced David's smile, a boy lost to Sarah's control. I closed the album, my chest tight. Tom's video replayed in my mind, his warning call, a call to action. Sarah thought she could bully me out, but I was building a case she couldn't dodge. Sarah was out, but David lingered in the living room, scrolling aimlessly. "You don't have to do everything she says. You know," I said gently. He flinched, his eyes flickering with doubt. "It's not that simple. Grandma Evie," my heart ached at the old nickname. A crack in Sarah's hold. I nodded, letting it go. Forcing him would backfire, but that flicker of doubt was a seed. I returned to my room, locking the door. Sarah's threat to ruin my reputation was bold, but Tom's video was bolder. I just needed to connect it to the forged will in Vance's email. That night, I lay awake, the photo album beside me. Sarah's Instagram popped up on my phone, a new post showing her and David at a furniture store, captioned, "Planning our dream home. Family first." The comments cheered her on, oblivious to her lies. I saved the screenshot, my jaw tight. She was selling a fantasy while stealing my reality. But Vance's email, Tom's video, and the forged will were stacking up. I closed my eyes, picturing David's hesitant look. He was slipping from Sarah's grip, and I'd be there when he fell. The next morning, I called Clara to dig deeper into Vance. He's got a history of shady estate deals. She said, "I'll check his firm's records." I thanked her, my resolve hardening. Sarah's ultimatum was a bluff, but I wasn't bluffing. I sat at my desk, the toast plate still there, a reminder of my solitude. I opened the album again, Michael's laugh echoing in my memory. "I'll fix this." "Son," I whispered. Sarah thought she was the queen of this chessboard, but I was moving my pieces quietly. Sarah's next blow came at breakfast, her phone in hand like a weapon. "Evelyn, I told our friends you're moving to a retirement home. They think it's best for your condition." Condition. She was spreading lies about my mental health, a calculated move to isolate me. I stirred my oatmeal, the spoon scraping the bowl, and forced a smile. "That's thoughtful, Sarah. I'll let you know my plans." She raised an eyebrow, expecting tears, then shrugged. "Just don't embarrass us." Embarrass her. She was the one turning my grief into a social media circus. I kept my face neutral, but inside, I was plotting. Her lies were piling up, and I was ready to topple them. I slipped out to Clara's again, Tom's USB files burning a hole in my purse. On her laptop, I found bank statements among Tom's records, one showing a $5,000 transfer to Richard Vance's firm, dated weeks after Michael's death. Sarah's name was on the transaction, not Michael's. My heart pounded. She was stealing from our accounts, using Vance to cover her tracks. I printed the statement, my hands steady. This was the link I needed, tying her to the forged will and Vance's email. Clara nodded, her eyes fierce. You've got her, Evelyn. Keep going. I hugged her. Tom's foresight, my anchor in this storm. Back home, I sat at the kitchen table, a single apple in front of me. I sliced it slowly, the knife's rhythm calming my nerves. The house was quiet, Sarah out playing in the nursery. I opened my laptop and checked her Instagram. A new post showed her at a cafe, captioned, "Building our future, one step at a time, stronger together." The comments praised her resilience. Blind to her theft, I saved the screenshot, my jaw tight. Each post was a brick in her facade, but I was chiseling away. I took a bite of the apple, its tartness sharp, like the truth I'd soon expose. Michael's photo on the wall watched me, his eyes urging me forward. David shuffled in, his shoulders hunched. "Mom says you're not well," he mumbled, avoiding my gaze. Sarah's lies were sinking into him, but his tone held a question. "I'm fine, David," I said softly, sliding the apple toward him. He hesitated, then took a slice. "You sure?" he asked. His voice small. I nodded, my heart aching. "Eat, sweetheart. We'll talk soon." He left, the apple slice in hand, a tiny bridge between us. Sarah was poisoning him, but I'd pull him back, one step at a time. That at evening, Sarah returned, tossing her keys on the counter. "Evelyn, I booked a tour for that retirement home. You'll love it." Her smirk said she'd already won. I folded my hands, picturing the bank statement. "Sounds nice. I'll think about it." She laughed, probably thinking I was her trained pet. Let her laugh. I spent the night in my room, the bank statement locked away with Tom's letter and the forged will. I needed it one more piece to seal her fate, something to tie Vance's email to her theft. I lay in bed, the apple's core on my nightstand. Its seeds a reminder of growth after decay. The next morning, I called a lawyer friend, Helen, who specialized in estate law. I shared the forged will and bank statement, keeping Tom's video secret for now. "This looks like fraud," Helen said. "If you can prove Sarah's intent, you'll bury her." I thanked her, my resolve ironclad. Back home, I found David in the study, staring at Michael's old guitar. "He taught me a few chords," he said, his voice distant. I touched his shoulder. "He loved you, David. So do I." He nodded, a flicker of warmth in his eyes. Sarah's grip was loosening, and I'd be there when it broke. Sarah's Instagram updated again, a photo of her with Vance at a business lunch. Caption, "Securing our legacy. Power moves." The arrogance was staggering. I saved it, my pulse racing. The bank statement, Vance's email, and Tom's video were a trifecta, but I needed to catch her in the act. I sat at my desk, the apple core still there, a symbol of what I'd rebuild. I closed my eyes, picturing Michael's laugh, his strength in me. Sarah thought she was untouchable, but I was closing in, one truth at a time. Sarah's cruelty took a new turn when I found my clothes stuffed into trash bags by the garage. "Evelyn, we're decluttering," she said, leaning against the doorway, her arms crossed. "You don't need all this in the guest house." Decluttering. She was erasing me from my own home, treating my life like garbage. I picked up a bag, my hands shaking, and spotted my favorite scarf, the one Tom gave me, tangled in the mess. "I'll sort it myself," I said, my voice steady despite the fire in my chest. She shrugged, her smirk saying she'd already won. "Suit yourself. Just hurry up. Hurry up." She was about to learn I wasn't rushing anywhere but to her downfall. I hauled the bags to my room, my mind on the bank statement and Tom's video. I needed more to nail Sarah, so I called Clara, who'd been digging into Richard Vance's firm. "Evelyn, I found a deed transfer attempt for your house, filed by Vance last week," she said. "It's not finalized, but Sarah's name is on it." My stomach dropped. "A deed transfer?" She was trying to steal my home outright. using Vance's legal tricks. I thanked Clara, my resolve hardening. The deed attempt was another piece, linking Sarah's theft to her eviction scheme. I locked the information away, my heart racing. That afternoon, I sat on my bed, the scarf in my lap. I ran my fingers over its soft threads, remembering Tom's grin when he draped it over my shoulders. "You look like a queen, Evie," he'd said. The memory stung, a sharp contrast to Sarah's trash bags. I folded the scarf carefully, my eyes dry. Grief was a luxury I couldn't afford now. The deed transfer, bank statement, and forged will were building my case. But I needed to protect David. 2. Sarah's hold on him was tight, but I'd find a crack. Clara stopped by, her face grim. "Vance has a history of forging deeds for wealthy clients. If you can tie him to Sarah's Instagram posts, you've got a slam dunk." I showed her the latest post. Sarah and Vance at their business lunch. Clara nodded. "That's your link. Keep digging." Her confidence lit a spark in me. I offered her tea, and we sat in the kitchen, the scarf on the table. David wandered in, his eyes flickering to the bags. "You okay?" "Grandma Evie," he asked, his voice soft. I smiled, hiding my pain. "Just farting of memories, sweetheart." He lingered, then left. That hesitation was my opening. Sarah returned, her heels clicking like a countdown. "Evelyn, I need your room cleared by tomorrow. The contractor's coming." Contractor. She was remodeling my life out of existence. I nodded, picturing the deed transfer. "I'll pack tonight," I said, my tone meek. She grinned, probably thinking I was her broken toy. Let her think it. I spent the evening in my room, sorting clothes, each item a reminder of who I was fighting for. I found a photo of Michael and David fishing, tucked in a jacket pocket. I pressed it to my chest, my breath uneven. "I'm doing this for you," I whispered. Michael's memory, my shield. That night, I checked Sarah's Instagram. A new post showed paint cans in my living room, captioned, "Transforming our space. New era." The comments cheered, blind to her theft. I saved the screenshot, my jaw tight. The deed transfer attempt was her boldest move yet, but Clara's find was my counterpunch. I lay awake, the scarf under my pillow, its softness grounding me. David's question replayed in my mind, his doubt a lifeline. I needed one more piece to trap Sarah, something to make Vance's role undeniable. The next morning, I called Helen, my lawyer friend. "A deed transfer attempt is serious," she said. "If you've got evidence of fraud, we can file an injunction." I shared the bank statement and Vance's email, keeping Tom's video as my trump card. "Get me that deed document," she urged. I promised to try, my pulse racing. Back home, I found David in the garage, staring at the trash bags. "She shouldn't do this," he muttered. I touched his arm. "We'll fix it, David. Together." He nodded, a spark of rebellion in his eyes. Sarah's castle was cracking, and I was ready to bring it down. Sarah's latest strike came at dinner, her voice cutting through the clatter of plates. "Evelyn, I've hired a lawyer to ensure you vacate properly. Don't make this messy." A lawyer? She was escalating, threatening legal action to force me out. I speared a piece of chicken, my fork steady despite the storm in my chest. I wouldn't dream of it. "Sarah," I said, my tone sugary. She leaned back, her eyes glinting with triumph. "Good. Let's keep it civil." Civil? She was waging war while calling it peace. I chewed slowly, the deed transfer and Tom's video flashing in my mind. She thought she'd cornered me, but I was setting a trap of my own. I spent the morning in my room, sorting through papers. When I found a small recorder in Michael's old desk, my heart skipped. I pressed play, and Sarah's voice filled the air, sharp and unguarded. From a conversation weeks ago, "Vance, get the deed done before she suspects. She's too busy crying to notice." My breath caught. This was gold, proof of her plotting with Richard Vance. I saved the recording to a USB, my hands trembling. The forged will, bank statement. And now this tape were a trifecta. I hid the recorder in my locked drawer, my resolve ironclad. Sarah's lawyer threat was bold, but I was bolder. That afternoon, I sat on the porch, a single glass of iced tea sweating in my hand. The air was heavy, mirroring the weight in my chest. I stared at the garden, where Michael once planted tulips for me, now overgrown with weeds. My fingers tightened around the glass, the cold grounding me. Sarah's voice from the recorder echoed in my mind, her betrayal a knife twisting deeper. I sipped the tea, its bitterness matching my mood. David's hesitant looks and the recording were my lifelines, pulling me toward justice. I wasn't just fighting for my home, I was fighting for Michael's legacy. David appeared, kicking a pebble across the driveway. Mom's lawyer came by, he said, his voice low. Said you're being difficult. Difficult. I wanted to laugh. I'm just protecting what's mine. David, I said gently. He looked away, his jaw tight. She says it's for our future. Sarah had him wrapped tight, but his doubt was growing. I offered him my tea. Want to sip? He took it, his fingers brushing mine. Thanks, Grandma Evie. The nickname warmed me. A crack in Sarah's armor. I smiled, hiding the recorder's secret. He'd know soon enough. Sarah was out, probably scheming with Vance. So I called Helen. I've got a recording of Sarah and Vance plotting the deed transfer, I said. Her voice lit up. That's a game changer. Evelyn, bring it to my office tomorrow. I agreed, my pulse racing. Back in the kitchen, I found Sarah's latest Instagram post. Her with a gavel graphic, captioned, "Securing what's ours, justice." The irony was rich. I saved the screenshot, my lips curling. She was playing judge, but I'd be the jury. I washed my glass, the water cool against my hands, a small act of control in her chaos. That evening, Sarah returned, her purse slung over her shoulder. Evelyn, the lawyer's drafting papers. Sign them, or we'll drag you to court. Her confidence was infuriating, but I pictured the recorder. I'll review them, I said, my voice calm. She laughed, probably thinking I was bluffing. Let her. I retreated to my room, locking the door. The recorder, bank statement, and Tom's video were my arsenal, but I needed David on my side. His tea sip was a start, a sign he wasn't fully gone. I lay in bed, the glass's condensation still vivid in my mind, a reminder of small victories. The next morning, I found David in the living room, staring at Michael's guitar. You miss him, I said, sitting beside him. He nodded, his eyes wet. Mom says we have to move on. I touched his hand. Moving on doesn't mean forgetting. David, he squeezed my fingers. A silent rebellion. Sarah's lawyer could threaten all he wanted, but David's heart was shifting. I clutched the recorder in my pocket, its weight, my anchor. Sarah thought she was right in the end of this story, but I was ready to rewrite it. Sarah's next move was a public gut punch. At a family gathering she'd organized in my own living room, she announced to everyone, Evelyn's agreed to move out for our growing family. The relatives gasped, their eyes darting to me, while David stood beside her, his face flushed with shame. Growing family. She was spinning lies to humiliate me in front of people I'd known for decades. I gripped my teacup, the porcelain warm against my palms, and forced a smile. We're still discussing things. Sarah, I said, my voice steady. She smirked, thinking she'd shamed me into submission. Oh, Evelyn. Don't be difficult. Difficult. She was about to find out how difficult I could be. I slipped away to my room, my heart pounding, and found a note slipped under my door. It was in my granddaughter Ava's handwriting, the 10-year-old daughter of David's late sister, Grandma Evie. I heard Mom talking about taking your house. It's not fair. I love you. My throat tightened. Ava, who lived with her father but visited often, had overheard Sarah's schemes. The note was a spark, confirming my ownership in a child's honest words. I tucked it into my locked drawer with the recorder, bank statement, and Tom's video. Sarah's public stunt was bold, but Ava's note was my secret weapon, a reminder I am that I wasn't alone. That evening, I sat at my desk, a single candle flickering. I unfolded Ava's note, its crayon scrawl a beacon in the dark. My fingers traced her words, the paper soft under my touch. I remembered her giggling in this room, playing with Michael's old toys. The memory was a quiet ache, but it fueled me. Sarah's announcement had turned the family against me, but Ava's loyalty was a crack in her plan. I blew out the candle, the smoke curling like my resolve. The recorder's proof of Sarah's plotting with Vance was my ace, and I'd play it soon. David knocked, his voice hesitant. Grandma Evie. I didn't know she'd say that. He stood in the doorway, his eyes downcast. I gestured to the chair. Sit, sweetheart. He did, his hands fidgeting. Mom says it's for Ava's future, too. Ava. Sarah was using her as a pawn. I handed him a cookie from a tin, a small gesture. Ava deserves the truth. David, so do you. He took the cookie, his fingers trembling. I don't know what's right anymore. I smiled, hiding the note's secret. You will. Just listen to your heart. He left, the cookie uneaten, but his doubt was my opening. Sarah was out, probably gloating to Vance, so I checked her Instagram. A new post showed her with relatives, captioned, "Family first. Always, new chapter." The comments praised her, blind to her lies. I saved the screenshot, my jaw tight. Her public charade was a mask, but Ava's note and the recorder were peeling it off. I called Helen, updating her on the note and recording. That's powerful. Evelyn, she said, if Ava's willing to speak, it'll sway a judge. I nodded, my pulse racing. Ava's courage was my lifeline, and I'd protect her as fiercely as my home. That night, Sarah cornered me in the kitchen. Evelyn, the family's on my side. Sign the papers, or I'll make sure Ava thinks you're the villain. Threatening Ava, my blood boiled, but I pictured the note. I'll consider it, I said, my voice calm. She laughed, probably thinking I was broken. Let her. I retreated to my room, locking the door. Ava's note sat beside the recorder. Two truths Sarah couldn't twist. I lay in bed, the candle's scent lingering, a reminder of light in the dark. David's doubt and Ava's love were shifting the tide, and I was ready to strike. The next morning, I met Ava at her father's house. She hugged me, her eyes wide. I don't want you to leave. Grandma Evie. I knelt, holding her hands. I'm not going anywhere. Sweet girl, can you tell a judge what you heard? She nodded, her braid bouncing. I hugged her tighter, my heart full. Back home, I found David in the study, staring at Michael's guitar. She's lying about Ava, isn't she? He asked, his voice breaking. I nodded. Help me stop her. David. He met my eyes, a spark of rebellion there. Sarah's castle was crumbling, and I was ready to finish it. Sarah's desperation peaked when she stormed into my room, waving a new document. Evelyn, this affidavit says you're unfit to manage your affairs. Sign it, or I'll take it to court. Unfit. She'd fabricated evidence to paint me as senile, a final blow to steal my home. I folded my hands, the recorder's weight in my pocket grounding me. That's a serious claim. Sarah, I said, my voice calm. She sneered, her confidence blinding her. You're old. Evelyn. Everyone sees it. Old. I was a warrior, and she was about to face my sword. I nodded, letting her think I was cowed. I'll look it over. She left, her heels clicking like a victory march. She had no idea I was ready to end this. I met Helen at her office, handing over the recorder, Ava's note, and the bank statement. She listened to Sarah's voice plotting with Vance, her eyes widening. This, plus Ava's testimony in the forged will, is airtight. She said, we'll file for fraud and an injunction to stop the deed transfer. My heart soared, but Helen warned, Sarah's affidavit is dangerous. We need to discredit it fast. I nodded, thinking of Ava's courage. I'd found another clue, a medical report Sarah had submitted to her lawyer, claiming I was disoriented. It was dated last week, when I'd been sharp as ever, meeting Clara, another lie to bury her with. That evening, I sat in the garden, a single rose in my hand. Its petals were soft, but its thorns pricked my finger, a tiny sting mirroring my pain. I thought of Michael tending these roses, his hands gentle despite their strength. My eyes burned, but I didn't cry. Sarah's affidavit was a low blow, but Ava's note and the recorder were my shield. I pressed the rose to my lips. It sent steadying me, The courtroom loomed, a battlefield where I'd fight for Michael's memory in my home. I wasn't just Evelyn anymore, I was a force, and Sarah would feel it. David found me outside, his face pale. Mom showed me that affidavit. It's not true, is it? His voice cracked. Torn between Sarah and me, I set the rose down. You know me, David. Am I unfit? He shook his head, his eyes wet. No, I'm sorry, Grandma. I hugged him, his warmth a lifeline. Help me tell the truth, I whispered. He nodded, his jaw set. Sarah's hold was breaking, and David's choice was my victory. I gave him a peppermint from my pocket, a small gesture. For courage, I said. He smiled, a flicker of the boy I loved. Sarah's Instagram was relentless. A new post showing her with a lawyer, captioned, "Protecting our family's future. Truth wins." The irony was laughable. I saved the screenshot, my fingers steady. Her affidavit was a desperate move, but Helen's plan was stronger. Back home, Sarah cornered me in the kitchen, the court date set. Evelyn, don't embarrass yourself. Her smugness was infuriating, but I pictured Ava's note. I'll be there, I said, my tone even. She laughed, probably thinking I was bluffing. Let her. I locked my door, the medical report and recorder beside me. The rose's scent lingered in my mind, a reminder of beauty amid thorns. The next morning, I met Ava and her father, preparing her for court. Just tell what you heard. Sweet girl, I said, braiding her hair. She nodded, her eyes fierce. I'll help you, Grandma Evie. My heart swelled. Back home, David was quiet, but he handed me a photo of Michael and him taken years ago. I found this. Keep it for luck. I tucked it into my purse, my throat tight. Sarah's affidavit was a lie, but Ava's truth and David's shift were my strength. I sat at my desk, the rose in a vase, its thorns a promise. The courtroom was near, and I was ready to strike. Helen called, her voice brisk. We're presenting the recorder, Ava's testimony, and the forged will tomorrow. Sarah's affidavit won't stand. I thanked her, my pulse racing. Sarah thought she'd scripted my defeat, but I was rewriting the ending. I lay in bed, the photo of Michael and David beside me. Their smiles my anchor. Sarah's lies were a storm, but I was the lighthouse, guiding truth to shore. Sarah's final gambit came the night before the court hearing. She slipped a note under my door, her handwriting sharp as her intent. Evelyn, withdraw your claims, or I'll tell Ava you never loved her. Threatening my bond with Ava was a new low. Even for her, I crumpled the note, my hands trembling with fury, but I didn't flinch. The recorder, Ava's testimony, and the forged will were ready, and Sarah's note was just another nail in her coffin. I smoothed the crumpled paper, tucking it into my locked drawer. You've overplayed your hand. Sarah, I whispered, my voice steady. She thought she could scare me into silence, but I was done bending. The courtroom was a blur of polished wood and stern faces. Helen presented our case, her voice cutting through Sarah's lies like a blade. The recorder played, Sarah's voice admitting her plot with Vance. And the room went still. Ava took the stand, her braid swinging as she spoke clearly. Mom said she'd take Grandma Evie's house. And it wasn't right. My heart swelled. Helen submitted the forged will, bank statement, and fake medical report, each piece dismantling Sarah's facade. Sarah's lawyer stammered, her affidavit crumbling under the weight of truth. The judge's gavel fell, ruling the deed transfer invalid and ordering Sarah to repay the stolen funds. She sat, stunned, her empire of lies in ruins. That evening, I sat in my living room, a single lamp glowing. I held the photo David gave me, Michael's smile warm in the silence. My fingers traced his face, the paper worn but precious. The courtroom victory was mine, but this moment, reclaiming my home, was for Michael. I set the photo on the mantel, next to Tom's scarf, their love anchoring me. Sarah's note lay in my drawer, a relic of her defeat. I sipped chamomile tea, its warmth soothing the scars of battle. The house was mine again, and so was my peace. David knocked, his eyes red. I'm sorry. Grandma Evie, I should have stopped her. I pulled him into a hug, his warmth melting the last of my anger. You're here now. David, that's enough. I handed him a peppermint, our old ritual. For courage, I said, and he smiled. The boy I loved returning, Ava bounded in, her father a trailing. We did it. Grandma, she cheered, hugging me tight. I laughed. The sound foreign but free. Sarah was gone, ordered to vacate by the court, her Instagram silent. David and Ava were my family now, and I'd protect them fiercely. The next morning, I met Helen to revise my will. Everything to David and Ava, I said, with a trust to keep it safe. She nodded, her pen swift. I added a fund for women facing family betrayal, a legacy for Michael and Tom. Back home, I found David in the garden, pulling weeds from Michael's roses. Thought they could use some care, he said, dirt smudged on his cheek. I joined him, the earth cool under my hands. We worked in silence, the roses a promise of renewal. Sarah's threats were a fading echo, drowned by the life we were rebuilding. That night, I checked Sarah's Instagram one last time. Her account was private, her posts gone. I closed my laptop. A weight lifting. I walked to the garden, the roses glowing under the moon. I clipped one. It sent sweet and placed it by Michael's photo. We did it. Sunset, I whispered, my voice soft. The house was quiet, but it was mine, filled with love, not lies. I sat on the porch, Ava's laughter from earlier ringing in my ears. I was free, not just from Sarah, but from fear. The victory wasn't just the house or the money, it was reclaiming my strength. I'd faced betrayal, gathered truth, and built a future for those I loved. Sarah thought she could break me, but I turned the tables, not with anger, but with patience and proof. I sipped my tea, the night air cool, and smiled. This was my home, my story, and I was writing the next chapter. The garden is quiet now, the roses blooming brighter each day. I walk there every morning, Ava's hand in mine, David's laughter not far behind. The house feels alive again, filled with memories of Michael and Tom, but also with new beginnings. I've learned that betrayal can cut deep, but truth cuts deeper, carving a path to freedom. To anyone facing their own Sarah, know this: your strength is your shield, your boundaries your sword. Protect what's yours, not with rage, but with resolve. I'm here, sipping tea on my porch, living my truth. Share your story below what's made you fight for yourself.